Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Alex. Welcome to this video and also welcome to my channel. This isn't my first video, but I have created the channel very recently because I basically wanted a place where I can talk about sustainability and also veganism and vegan food because I'm a huge foodie as well. Today I want to talk to you guys about sustainability. I've been on my own sustainability journey for I'd say maybe the past 4 or 5 years, and I'm definitely still very much on my journey. I think there probably never comes a point where you feel like you've learned it all. But having said that, I definitely have learned a lot in the past few years, and I have recently been reflecting because it's the new year, January 2020, which means it's a new decade as well. I've been thinking about what I have been doing and changing, and also kind of it's sometimes nice to stop and just appreciate how far you've come. And I've been thinking about all the things I wish I'd known at the beginning of my sustainability journey. So today I want to talk to you about 10 things that you can change in your life that will actually make a big difference for your carbon footprint. I'm not dismissing all the small changes in your lives. Obviously any change is great, but there's obviously some things that are more important and have a bigger impact than others. So let's get started. Flying less is one of the most impactful ways you can reduce your carbon footprint. On average, one long-haul return flight is roughly the equivalent to driving your car for an entire year. So it does make a huge difference. Even if you can't commit to never fly again, just reducing it, having 1 or 2 less holidays a year that you fly, or go on a work trip or whatever. If you need inspiration or you're looking for a supportive community to talk to about your aim of flying less, there is a really great campaign called Flight Free 2020. I think it's also called Flight Free UK, Flight Free US. They're basically a support network and a charity, I think. Are they a charity? I'm not sure. But they, you can sign up to their newsletter and they help you to stick to your goals. And they provide lots of information about what to do instead, how to travel, tips, tricks, that kind of thing. And then just 2 of my tips are, first of all, choose your destination with the aim of traveling by bus or train or ferry in mind. That makes it so much easier than choosing a destination and then realizing that it's really difficult to get there without flying. And then my second tip is to make the journey part of the adventure. That's something I've learned in the last year, I'd say, and it has really changed the way I travel. We, for example, I think 2 years ago, we went to Sweden and we chose to first take a bus to Germany and then travel by ferry from Germany to Sweden. And it was a really beautiful ferry ride. We just really made it part of the beautiful holiday, and we went on deck to watch the sunrise, listen to the waves, and it was just in general really magical. And I'm really glad that that was part of our adventure. Consumerism and capitalism, and especially over-consuming, is a huge, huge problem, and it's one of the really big polluters. So I've been really trying hard to reflect on how I consume things and basically ask myself 3 questions before I decide to buy something. First of all, do I actually need this item? And sometimes the answer is no, I have a very similar thing at home, or I could just borrow it from a friend. Or sometimes the answer is yes, I genuinely do need this item. And then the second question is there a way of me getting the second hand, whether again it's from maybe a friend or maybe from a charity shop or a thrift store or something like that. And then if the answer is no to that second question as well, then I try and look for high quality sustainable items that last for a long time, that haven't cost the world. And I'm very aware that obviously not everyone has that option, because a lot of the times that can be more expensive, and also it can take a bit more time and effort. So don't beat yourself up over it if you can't, but if you can, it's a really great start. Switch your energy provider. For me, that was a really quick and easy change that for some reason just took me forever to implement. I don't know why, but it was just never really in my awareness, but it is a really quick and easy, usually, change that has a huge impact, especially if you live in like a bigger place that's shared with a lot of people. For me, it was really easy because even though we're renting, we do have our own like energy supply in our flat. So for me, it only meant researching, going on like a compare website that shows you prices and also the like sustainability of the energy providers. And I ended up choosing bulb. They derive the electricity only from renewable sources. For me, gas wasn't a problem because we don't use gas in our flat, but for you, that might be another thing to look into. So if you rent, maybe talk to your landlord. If you own your place, that's obviously really easy. You can just do it yourself. We have probably all heard by now that animal products are really bad for the environment. But if you feel like you can't just commit to going vegan altogether, like overnight, then there's definitely some animal products that are a lot worse for the planet than others. And I think it's a very good idea to start with those. Red meat and dairy are definitely especially bad, and cutting out those or reducing those will already have a really big impact. And then there's a lot of seafood that unfortunately also has a really big negative impact on the ocean. A lot of fish, but also lots of other seafood, like for example king prawns. So avoiding those already will do a lot of good. There are a few very obvious ones that you might already be doing, like use your own water bottle, keep cup, shopping bag, that kind of thing. But there are also a lot of other little things that I have been doing more recently, and that has been, for example, not throwing away jars and using them as storage instead of buying new ones, using shampoo bars or soap bars that don't come in like plastic packaging. And also for me, I'm really lucky that I live close to Brighton, and Brighton has a lot of like supermarkets and also other stores that do packaging free like sections, so I can just bring my own jars or bags and just fill the stuff there. So I have been using like shampoo and conditioner and food from there. I'm not zero waste, I wish I was, but I'm not quite there yet. But yeah, that's a really good start. And also, if you don't live close to somewhere that offers that kind of like facility, I know that Lush and also Body Shop are offering or are like starting to offer a lot of like refill stations where you can bring your own bottles. So that's really great for like cosmetics and like toiletries. First of all, the fashion industry has a huge carbon footprint, and there's so much stuff that ends up in landfill every year, and it's really polluting and it's really destructive, the like waste being like mass produced. So it's really great if you can find charity shops or thrift stores, or there's also lots of like online versions of it if you live somewhere that doesn't have access to those stores. You can also do things like clothes swaps with friends or families. I've done that, it's really fun. And then in general, again, like trying to buy less clothing if you can. But then the other thing that I feel like took me a long time to realize I can do is like buy other secondhand things, like secondhand technology. The lens that I'm using to film this, for example, I bought secondhand, and my other like small camera that I use for vlogging, I bought secondhand. Same for my phone. So it's a thing that I have only started doing about like a year and a half ago. It makes a huge difference, and it's often cheaper as well, which is another nice bonus. So yeah, secondhand electronics. Personal change is really great and very important, but we really need big systematic change, and protest movements that put pressure on governments and corporations are really important. And there's loads of different ones to choose from. I've written down a few. There's Extinction Rebellion, there's Mondays for Future, the school strikes, there's the Sunrise Movement, there's Reclaim the Power, and there's so many more. There's really great climate justice ones. There's also lots of like very local ones that you can join. And I think, first of all, it can feel very empowering to be around loads of people who feel the same, who are passionate, who want to like fight for this. But also it's really important, big numbers can make a big difference. And then also just to say, don't be put off if you feel like protests aren't your thing, or It might be a bit scary. Sometimes there's like arrests involved in it, and I personally, for example, really don't want to get arrested at all. There's so many different roles and movements as well. So for Extinction Rebellion, which is what I'm part of, there's lots of things like, for example, kitchen duty, or something I have trained in, which is like the welfare support team. There's loads of roles that are not like super out there and like, frontline, that you can join if that's what makes you feel more comfortable. I think it can be really powerful to learn where we're at and what you can do. And then afterwards you can also share that knowledge with other people. I've written down a list of some people and resources that I really like to either like read their stuff or watch what they have to say, and I've learned so much from them, and I keep learning so much from all of them. And some of them have great books, some of them are more like YouTubers, some of them are lawyers. So let me just read out a few of them, and I'm also going to put all the links in the description bar. So one person, first of all, he's like, I'd say the expert on it, and that is environmental author and journalist and also scientist George Monbiot, and I have read one of his books and loads of his articles. He is very good at, first of all, I think, communicating a lot of it, but he also really knows his shit, Then another person is Venetia Lamana. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. She is a like YouTuber and kind of social media person, and she has a podcast as well. And I find her, first of all, very educational, but also very inspiring, because she's made a lot of changes and she talks about a lot of it. Then another group of people that I follow on like Twitter and also read when they put out stuff is Scientists for Extinction Rebellion. I've met a few of them at protests and they're really great. They take their time to like talk to you and like answer your questions. And they have also written like a declaration where they put kind of their opinion on like what has to be done now. And a lot of them are actually really important climate scientists who have been like lead authors on IPCC reports. So they're specialists, they know what they're talking about. Then another person that I also follow on like social media and I read what she has to say is climate change lawyer Farhana Yamin. And she's also part of several different protest movements. But there's so many other things. And honestly, if you have any other recommendations, I would love to hear them, because I'm always kind of on the lookout for new resources and new stuff to read, especially when it comes to like positive things that we can do together. That is a thing that I'm still trying to implement, especially in winter. It gets a lot harder, and also I think it's okay if you can't always stick to it 100%. There's other options, like for example eating frozen fruit and veg when it's not in season, because they can freeze it when they are in season, and then there's also usually a lot less food waste than when it's like fresh produce. Then another option that I'm trying, I'm not the best at, is like growing my own food. My partner's actually much better at it, but yeah, we're trying. It's also really fun, I think. And then the last one is to look after yourself. It might not seem like it makes a big difference for the environment, but I have really learned from the past few years that it's so incredibly important that you do self-care and you listen to yourself and you don't overdo it. A lot of this is very like depressing content, and we know that it's only going to get worse. And it's something that I struggle with, like on a very regular basis. A lot of people call it eco-anxiety, and I think we still kind of underestimate how important that aspect will become, especially as things get worse. So I'm definitely no expert, still struggling with it, but a few things that I've been trying, especially recently, to implement are, first of all, to be very gentle with myself and not be hard on myself if I'm not perfect, if I don't always do the things that I want to do. Another thing is to spend time in nature. I'm very lucky that we live in the countryside. It can be so good for your well-being to just like take a day, go spend time in like nature, just be surrounded by green. Then another thing is I'm trying to get into meditation. I'm not that good at it, but I guess in the beginning no one really is. I also am trying to like unplug more. It's something I'm also definitely struggling with, to just have like time away from the screen. My partner and I are thinking about having like at least an hour in the evening where no one is like on the laptop or the phone. And then I just got a book called Active Hope, which is all about this struggle, and to me it feels quite good to first of all know lots of other people are going through similar things, and people have been thinking about it and writing about it. So I'm gonna update you guys once I've finished that book. I've heard very good things about it. Let me just check if I've forgotten anything. Oh yeah, the last one is talk to family and friends about it. Some people might understand it, some maybe not, so maybe figure out who you wanna like trust with those worries. But for me, especially after protests, it's really important that I can kind of like not necessarily offload stuff on someone, but just talk to someone about how I'm feeling. I think that is it for today. I really hope some of this was helpful. Let me know in the comments if you want to implement some of those things, if you are already doing some of those things. Also, please let me know if you have any other suggestions. I'm always really keen to learn more, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.